Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And as we're sitting here today, I can't help but wonder, with the illusion of progress meaning moving back. It is a shame to where we as a society have gone to. Having said that, the topic I'm discussing today is not something that happened overnight. The problems that we're facing currently in the world were not made overnight. This took a long time. And if you look at the historical setting, you look at the spiritual setting, and you look at the patterns and how they all connect with what's happening today and what will happen in the foreseeable future, it is easy to say that whatever you've been told about 5G is but a fraction of what is correct. There have been a lot of researchers saying contradictory things about the new 5G network, and there have been videos on it from other YouTubers who say there is absolutely nothing wrong with this technology. There's absolutely nothing that can be done or that can harm you from using the 5G network. Well, I can completely disavow that with facts, not whether it's to say opinions, because opinions ultimately are for those who don't know what they're talking about. If you're sure about your stuff, you know exactly what you're talking about. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to be emotional about it. No, you can be straight up with it and just say, look, these are the facts, and these are presented from not only my personal experience of others, but also things that I've read, things I've put myself in practice. And really, what it boils down to is 5G does a lot more damage in the long run, because think about really, all right? We're going to get into a lot of factions on this topic, but first of all, it's anything you use in excess: smoking, drinking, drugs, time consumption, energy consumption, attention span. Eventually, too much of anything is not a good thing. So having a particular radiation vibrational network that really has actually already made its attempts to become worldwide, and we're sitting here trying to figure out how did this happen. Well, and here's where we get into the historical and more likely spiritual aspects behind 5G. You see, in today's society, we really we don't even contemplate the concept of spirit. We don't. We think about body and mind, and in even those aspects, all right, we look at as if they're separate. All right? We all have a body and we all have a mind. And believe it or not, we all have a spirit. We treat each and every one of them as if they're completely separate from each other. But again, that is the fundamental trick that society plays on you, is to make you think that any part of you is outside and has to be separated and should not be combined. Same thing as when it comes with scientifics and practical aspects, and completely ignore the spiritual aspect of all these accomplishments, more or less advancements, because whether you can call them accomplishments is pretty varied upon which part of the globe you're born in. We could say in America and in Europe, like, yeah, they've advanced us tremendously. Well, take a look at someone in South America or any other third world country and ask them if that has improved their lives. No, because we take their resources to build these machines. And it's pretty much the same when it comes to science. And you see it in these particular times that we're living in, that science is being so blown up. As if in the past, science and spirit were separate. Everyone loves to read about the alchemist, Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. But what a lot of people really don't realize is that alchemists didn't make any separate distinction between the scientific, the practical, and the spiritual. An alchemist saw all these components as part of what made them do what they did, exercising that purpose. And so to speak of 5G as if it has no consequences on the body, the mind, or the spirit would be completely denying the very part of human existence as we know it. And you might ask yourself where I get this from. Like I said, when you know who you personally are and your patterns, personal ones, where they come from, and the patterns of the universe, it is pretty easy to see that everything operates at a vibrational frequency. And it's not just us, it's not just the machines we create. The birds, the trees, even rock. Even at a vibration we cannot understand fully. Alright? Everything operates at a vibrational frequency. Now, what if I were to tell you that not all vibrational frequencies match the same? Still following me? Now, what if I were to tell you that this device, which I can tell you is 5G free, I specifically chose it for that reason. And honestly, when you look at these frequencies and how they've been passed through over time, it is easy to see that all of it is connected. And all of us communicate in a large extension or not with these vibrational frequencies. When the normal 3D human perspective talks about vibrational frequencies, we think about making sound, communication, verbally, like I'm doing right now. You could not get further from the truth, because anyone who personalizes in knowing the body fully in all of its aspects will tell you that verbal communication is only 30% of these vibrations. The rest of it is thought patterns, behavioral patterns, body language. Because I can personally tell you, the body will tell more about who you are than what you're saying. And we see it happening in the world right now as we speak, that the words people say don't actually match with their actions. So if you need any more proof that whatever you say does not match with who you are, or that communication gives an accurate description of what it means to enhance, enlarge, dissect, or detect a vibrational frequency that the entire cosmos operates on. And even in ancient times, they knew all this. All right? The Lakota, the Inuit, the Navajo, all right? The Incas, the Aztecs, the Africans, all right? Samoans, Hawaiians, all of the indigenous old ways of living, they knew that every single, even in Japan, they knew it. Even in Japanese Shinto religion, I will tell you. But all of these cultures, before the West started invading and wiping all these cultures out, they knew that everything in this planet operates on a different frequency, but still the same. We regard plants as not alive. They are just as alive and communicative as you and I. We just don't get ourselves into a frequency that is equal to the life around us. And as you can see, we've completely trained ourselves to be completely shut down of all the other frequencies that are around us. Vibrational frequencies of every living being on this planet requires only one thing: a change of perspective. The recognizing that we are all part of the one planet, the one life that surrounds all life. And all we've ever done, really, with the Western perspective of when it comes to technology, is imitating life, but never creating it. Or our attempts to recreate it only have ever failed because we missed that one fundamental piece: spirit. Only when looking at spirit, recognizing what you as an individual is truly made of, then can you find, detect, and recognize all the other frequencies of all life around you. And you will come to know that as great as technology is, it will always ever be life's imitation and never life's recreation. So you might still ask yourself, okay, I get all of that, but how do we get to 5G? Why are you saying 5G is destructive when I haven't felt any of it? Well, I'll tell you. You see, over the time, we've learned to adapt to a particular type of frequency. But as the world is shifting, as the world is completely realigning, all right, with not only our current selves, our future selves, but also with our ancient selves. And those who are still watching right now, you know what I'm talking about. You felt it, all right? The great shifts in the universe, the numerology being stronger. And this will all be explained momentarily, but we got to keep on subject here when it comes to the 5G. And every single person is or has and will be operating on a different frequency. Now, what do you mean frequency when I'm talking in the term of ancient times? Music is the one thing, and you see it with all the different versions that are out there, react with a certain frequency. Because they recognize that music moves the soul. The vibration of sound creating a melody enhances the spiritual frequency that resides in each and every individual, regardless of where they come from. But where you come from, especially in ancient times, had a direct influence on your spiritual frequency. For example, I, like any other person, I can listen to opera, I can listen to classical music, I can listen to jazz. But does it get my frequency moving? Does it get my spirit excited as I'm dancing African dance, dance hall, or Brazilian music, Latin music? Absolutely not. There's no comparison to that the ones I last mentioned raise my frequency a lot more than those type of music ever could. Not saying that in terms of negative or positive, because when you know who you are, you recognize you need both. Music was used in rituals, weddings, burials, to celebrate every emotion, every change of season that was out there. But as we evolved, we've learned to accept one way of living, which is why the world's in the state it is right now. We've accepted one way of living, and not recognizing that there are many other ways of living. Also, there are many ways to reach your heightened spiritual frequency, or as we in the spiritual life like to call it, your most true, authentic self. Now, through music, through ritual practices, some old, some new, some as ancient as time itself, you see that in Buddhism, all right? Recognizing that authentic sounds, which as much of all the music today is electronic, again, I say, they are imitations of the original sound that, drums, whether they're from the Burundi tribe or, the duduk or any other original sound of nature, which will affect your vibrations, your spirit, in a different way than any other before. And as much as I love modern music today, all right, and accept the changes that come with it, we cannot deny that the overuse of electronic music has decreased our spiritual frequency. Which is why I'm doing this right now, to not tell you what to do, but make you be aware of what's happening, not just around the world, but also how the world affects you. Even when you're in a different environment, right? You can tell that there are many different environments, each one of them having a profoundly different effect on your spirit or your vibrational frequency, which is your body, your vessel, your temple. All right? And we have learned to shut ourselves off to all those environments, all those vibrational frequencies that our environment give off. We've learned to shut them out completely out of our system. And to say, therefore, that 5G, all right, with all the technology that's out there, not affecting it, would be blatantly false. And again, to know others is inner strength, to know yourself is true power. Words said by Lao Tzu, and they could not be further from the truth. Once you truly introspect and question yourself along the way, are we going the right direction? Am I going the right direction? Does this align with who I am? Does this enhance my being, or is this lowering my being? Is this lowering my frequency? And so ancient methods, music, and rituals will have you know that these were very much needed to raise your vibrational frequency. Why do you believe that during war times drums were played? To raise the frequency in such a state that you were hyped up, pumped up, and ready for battle. But this could not, however, be achieved just alone. Even in the American Indian tribes, they will chant, they will scream while playing drums heavily before they went out to hunt. Why did they do that? To make the mind, the body, so completely still that it was only focused on the task at hand, which was either to hunt or to kill. Either the animals for food or the other tribes who were simply in the way. So once you know that, and once you recognize that even though Western society has brought great things, technological wise, it has also come at a tremendous great loss, which is our connection to other vibrational frequencies that are around you. Even in psychology, they will tell you that being secluded will help you calm the vibrations. After being 1.5 years stuck, do you really feel like it has improved your life? If it has, more power to you. You probably needed that. You probably were too hectic, too caught up in the wrong things, that you needed a time to calm down. But for those of you it hasn't, you would ask, is seclusion, is shutting yourself off from the vibrations you already lacking of, is that really helpful to your personal growth, your development as a living being across this entire cosmos? If you're still watching this video, you probably have the answer, which is no. Now, during, of course, the colonialist times, which, of course, here in the Netherlands, they call it the 15th century's golden age. Well, ask any other tribe, all right? Ask any other culture outside of Europe or the United States, and they will tell you there was nothing golden about that age, all right? It was the American Indian went even as far as to call those ages the First World War. We claim that the First World War was in around 1917, with other cultures being, any originally native South American, Mexican, and American Indian tribe. They will tell you, oh no, it was long before that. We had our culture, we had our inner knowledge, we had everything that made us be stripped away for the profit of the few. And of course, only then we recognize that, yes, we've made a lot of advancement, but all at a great cost. We have been cut off from the source. The true vibrational frequency, which is the vibration of spirit. And unless you're, like me, a guy who completely doesn't care about how clean he is or looks, as my own friends dare to claim, and I'm not saying they're wrong, and I'm not saying they're right either, but recognizing that, you'll realize that no matter how similar we try to make ourselves, we all operate spiritually and scientifically on a different frequency. Yes, on one perspective we're all the same, but in another perspective we're not. You think because we look alike that we are alike? Or you think that that has anything to do with where we're from or how we look? No, it's the way we process the world around us. It is the way we process our events that happen in our life, which will have you know that everything is connected. We have our own mental, physical, and spiritual bubble that we live in, which is usually inside our minds. And even Alan Watts says that when you look at how humans behave, when we interact with one another, you're entering my world and I'm entering your world. So you're entering my entire cosmos of vibrational frequencies. Some that are inherent in our DNA and some that have been learned over time. But all make us move different, act different, talk different, all right, and express ourselves different. Regardless of how similar we are, it's those type of vibrational sequences that are either moved by music, by art, by expression, by movement, dance. It's all these things that fundamentally make us human. So now I explain this. You say, well, how does 5G incorporate into that? How does technology incorporate all that which you've just talked about? Well, I'll tell you here first. Does anyone remember the story of Bohemian Grove? Because a lot of frequencies of a lot of other cultures in the way how they move and express themselves have been lost, cutting themselves off from source. Well, Bohemian Grove, all right, as Alex Jones made a documentary of, said something very, highlighted something very different about what's going on in those forests. Because ultimately, Alex Jones went into film and he found figures. Now, whether they're politicians or people of business, that the power, whatever, people entered there in the forest where they would not be bothered, where you would go to connect with nature. As much as a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the ancient knowledge has been lost, it has been maintained by the gatekeepers who know the truth. And I call them the gatekeepers because they not only kept that information from other cultures, they even kept that knowledge from people within their own culture. So they would always be one step ahead from the rest, even their own. And Bohemian Grove accurately depicts how being connected with the ancient ways highly promotes and enhances your spiritual vibrational frequency. Because the pagans had many different gods. All right? And they worshipped an old pagan owl god in there. What does that, if that does not prove the existence of spirit within your body and mind, and how these ancient rituals were used to enhance your vibrational frequency, you see the dots. Are you connecting them? Then you would know that regardless of the times, the ancient ways never left. They're still within us. They're still within our DNA. And only when you do that introspection, when you take that inner journey, as much as we have an outer journey in the external, only then will you figure out the existence of spirit, and the decreasing and the enhancing of your spiritual vibrational frequency is just as real as this grass, as the trees, as you and me, as a rock that is out there right now. So, having said that, however, how does 5G incorporate into all of this? Because as you see with the algorithms, all right, on the internet, on the YouTubes, on the Instagrams, all right, there has been an attempt made, all right, to use the universal grand shift, to use, all right, the Great Reset to the benefit of those who worship the old pagan ways, as explained in Bohemian Grove. But how do we, and by we I mean those in power, stay one step ahead of everything else while we navigate trying to manipulate the universal change in order to we can remain on top? Why do you think all these restrictions have been in place? All right? Why all these restrictions when we have the tools to be liberated at a grand level that no one else knows? Why? Because they need the system divided. They need us divided. They need our own internal ones divided, so those who are the gatekeepers can remain on top even after the Great Reset. You think they haven't prepared for this? When you know the truth and how all these rituals, all these patterns come together, you will recognize that this attack, this spiritual warfare, didn't came out of the blue. It didn't come at 2000. It didn't come at 2012. It's not happening right now. This has been centuries of planning. And this comes from centuries looking ahead. This comes from the gatekeepers, as I call them, remaining in power for a very large portion of humanity's existence. as a whole. And 5G is one of many weapons being used to decrease the spiritual vibrational frequency of anyone that is not of European original descent. And the only reason I'm here alive after the spiritual warfare telling you about this now is that inner journey that a lot of people are afraid but must take if you want to remain above the rest. When entering the Great Reset, when the Great Reset is over, you best be ready for that inner journey. Because if not, you will not live to see what's coming. You will not live to see the end of this year. After everything that has happened, I promise you, if you do not get that inner journey and get through the hardest battle, removing your trauma, removing your fears, removing any and all that keeps you separated from yourself and the rest of the universe around you, then and only then will you be able to recognize the truth. Not your truth, not her truth, not my truth, no, the truth. That as much as we created our own bubble, it is only to keep us grounded, whether as not to get lost in the chaos of the rest of the world. But only when you eliminated the chaos in yourself will you be able to handle the chaos that is coming your way. And 5G has been deliberately created, as you can see from the patterns of the Bohemian Grove. Alright, there are forces that either raise your spirit or they will down your spirit. The mind is only the processor. It can create, but that too can be weaponized. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're not from original European descent, you're in trouble. Because unless you develop your ancient God-given techniques, unless you know your true history, even with the African version, there is so much we don't know. We, as of right now in history, know about 16 Orishas. And after having done my inner journey, I can tell you, we don't know shit. There are 164 Orishas that have ever existed in Africa. 164. Even in Aztec culture, right? The Aztecs, the Incas, all the gods, all the mythological creatures they worshipped. All right? We know, I personally know about the whole culture, if you were to connect it and see the similarities, as you could in Egypt with Horus and Jesus and how those stories are similar. There is no doubt that, as I'm experiencing right now, we know about 32. There are a lot more. But there is knowledge hidden in you, in your spirit, in your DNA, that the gatekeepers would not want you to know. How in the hell do you think Toussaint Louverture in Haiti, one island kicked an entire nation out? All right, they fought for their freedom using voodoo, their old ancient ways, to raise their vibrational frequency, as I've told you. All right, raising your vibrational frequency in order to kick out the French. They did that in a 10-year span, what most slaves would not have been able to do in hundreds of years. So after having said that, you know that our technology gives off, whether you like to believe or not, gives off radiation, gives off a certain type of energy. Recreated energy, but energy nonetheless. Again, I say, imitations of life and not life itself. The sun is our most, and the Incas knew this. The Aztecs, they knew that the source of it all, of information, of creativity, of all that is within the human mind, comes not from in here, doesn't even come from in here. It is given to us all around us. And to say that this great piece of technology, this 5G, does not in any way, shape, or form harm our vibrational frequency, which is the frequency of all that the universe, Mother Earth, and God have given us, a soul, a spirit. And if you're not saying you don't feel anything, well, that should already know about what your frequency is like. What your soul, if you still have one, really is about. Why do you think they put the American Indian in reservations, only giving them crap food, only giving them corn and keeping them unhealthy? Because the one way to kill the soul is to kill the body. And I respect the American Indian for still standing here after hundreds of years, alright, of destruction being put upon them. You cry every year, alright? And I'm not saying it's not horrible what happened, alright? You want to cry over 1.5 million Jews that were gassed? They did 10 times that number in the United States of America, including Canada. And even in these times now, we're recognizing that if you can't kill the body, and if you can't corrupt the mind, oh, they'll go for where it hurts. They'll go for the soul. They'll go for the jugular. Because if they can kill your spirit, then they've already won 85% of the battle. If they can kill your spirit, they've won most of the war already. And the gatekeepers knew this. The gatekeepers knew. And they know now. But with the power of love, we'll overthrow all evil. Raising our frequencies, I tell you, know your history, know your power, know your worth, all right? Rise above the poison that is hanging around in the air right now. Because I can, and now I'm going to give you a practical reason, all right? Why I know and how I stay above it, raising my own frequency to combat the negative emotions, all right, the negative vibrations that are being put out in the world right now. When 5G first came around, I was still dating my second girlfriend at the time. You know, she was from Indonesian descent, and I'm being compared to Indonesia a lot over my years of living, but I'm actually half European, half Caribbean, and I've got something interesting to say about that as well. So. Stay tuned. If you're still watching, thank you. Like, share, subscribe. You know, pass it around. This knowledge has to be shared, people. This knowledge has to be shared. All right. Tell your friends. All right. Tell them to give a listen. All right. It may resonate. It may not, but it will definitely wake you up and make you aware to a lot of bullshit that's happening. The first time I ever came in contact with 5G was at a Samsung booth. Now, even more recently, all right, I've figured that I cannot operate within near of the frequency that 5G technology is giving off. Even though I'm half European myself. But getting to the first time, they were testing out the Z Flip. They had all the new Samsung's phones that were out, and they were testing out 5G at that time. The Samsung booth wasn't that big. I think altogether you could put like max 15 people in there. Well, I went in, and it didn't take long for me to be nauseous, to get a headache, to feel completely like I was either gonna barf, faint, or both. Because I knew whatever frequency I was giving off did not match with the frequency that is coming out. Why? Because it's an imitation of frequency. As great as all this technology is, it gives off imitation of energy. It's an imitation, all right? This is the electricity, all right? If it's not generated by natural sources, all right, you only get poison, all right, all around you. And that's why I say all Western society has ever done correctly is create imitations. You see that with the food, right? You see it with the food sources even, all right? All becoming an imitation of what used to be the natural state of all that is alive currently around the world. And after feeling stomachache, I was getting gut pain. I was getting stomach pains. All right, I was getting a headache. I felt like I had to barf. All right, I felt like if I didn't get out of there right now, something was going to happen. I felt anxious. And right there, I lasted no more than 15 minutes before I had to leave that entire Samsung booth. And this is not a bashing of the technology. Absolutely not. Technology has brought us a lot, but came at a high cost. And right now, we have all the tools to not necessarily combat that, but to change it and make it better for everyone, and not just the few. But of course, with any tool that Western society has ever created, we first learned how to abuse it before we learn how to use it. Why? Because as Alan Watts said, when it comes to the philosophies of the East and the West think backwards on everything, including our social structures. We seek a relationship with someone else before we seek a relationship with ourselves, which any other culture will tell you that seeking a relationship with yourself, knowing yourself, all right, your essence, your vibrational frequency completely, is a determining factor on how you will live the rest of your life. So, 5G, regardless of what you believe, has direct and long-term consequences for your body, for your mind, and your soul, if you haven't given up yours already. So, I sincerely hope you've been well informed, and if not, there are more parts of this coming. Because if this has not been explained enough, trust me, there are more parts coming out of all of this. But if you've been watching through all this time, I thank you all very much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Share it around with your friends because this knowledge needs to be shared. This message has to be heard. My personal interests far outweigh that of what I personally want. To be honest with you, I could care less unless we help the world progress the right way. And as of right now, we are not progressing in the right way, people. We're absolutely not. And having that internal knowledge about yourself and what the environment does around you is essential for you to live life more properly, in balance with the universe, with Mother Earth, with nature, and all the rest of the cosmos, we are absolutely not alone. We have history written in our DNA that will not only help you become a better person in the world, not only help you be a better person for the world, but might actually help you make a difference in the world. And I hope I made that difference here today. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was Quentin here. All right, like, share, subscribe. Again, thank you all for watching. And yeah, please click that like button as well. It helps out. It really does. And thank you all for being here with me. And I'll see you another day. And as always, namaste. See you all next time.